Hello and welcome to this very special spooky episode of ACM's Vault of Coal. Going to talk about a movie that was a minor success in America, mainly on DVD and on TV. Made a little bit of money at the cinema but couldn't be considered a hit. This is the fourth of the Ernest movies, Ernest Scared Stupid. You may remember we done an episode on Ernest Goes to Camp with the Pookie players probably about a year ago now. So this is going to be a sort of trilogy. Hopefully we'll do an episode on Ernest Saves Christmas around Christmas time. Movies I grew up with and really enjoyed as a real youngster. I must have been about 8 years old when I saw the first movie, probably about 11 when I saw this one. I grew up with them. I watched them a lot on TV. I had them recorded off TV. I bought the videos of some of them and just repeat watch for me as a youngster. I loved the slapstick style. And for me, I just thought Jim Varney was a very likeable actor, to the point of when I saw the video cover from a distance of Ace Ventura when it first came out, I thought it was him, just this iconic, for me, comedy actor that I don't think many people in this country, especially now, remember him. Talked to a fair few people who remember seeing the films as a kid of my age, but they're not shown on TV much anymore. But it's nice to see on social media, especially people I know in America, sharing about this movie at Halloween and Ernest Saves Christmas at Christmas. So I thought this week, or this episode, we'll talk about Ernest Scared Stupid. Returning once again from King Street Cinema in Ipswich, almost a co-host on the last series, Mr. James Rowe. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yes.
Excellent. And
okay. How are you?
I'm good. We'll play the trailer for this film in a minute, but just to let everybody know, you hadn't seen the movie before.
Had not.
The only Ernest film you'd seen was the Christmas one, which I don't think you remembered much of.
Yeah, I had not seen it since it came out.
Okay.
So I didn't really remember it too well, no.
So I'm going to play, if I can get hold of it, because on the DVD there isn't the trailer for this movie, but I'll play something, a clip or something of Ernest now for you guys to listen, to get in the mood for Mr. Ernest P. Worrell, and then we'll be back to discuss this family-friendly Halloween horror, spooky craziness movie from his very 90s.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Stone Pictures, monstrous trolls have sprung to life. Hope you're from Cleveland. And now Ernest P. Worrell is springing into action. He'll try anything.
I know Tai Chi Kung Fu, Chow Man.
And everything.
Your shoes untied.
To save the day.
It's showtime.
Yeah. It's Ernest P. Worrell in a brand new movie. Ernest Scared Stupid.
How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips?
Starts Friday, October 11th at a theater near you.
Released in October of 1991, Ernest Scared Stupid is the fourth of the Ernest franchise, American comedy, well, kids comedy movie series that originated from TV commercials. Ernest advertised many things in the 80s. If you listen to our previous podcast on Ernest Goes to Camp, talk about that a little bit more. But this has become a family Halloween favourite in America, at least. And it has been shown on TV around Halloween in the UK, but I don't think I've seen it on TV or advertised to be on TV for a good decade or so. It's kind of forgotten. But horror fans, especially now we're that bit older, seem to have attached themselves to this movie for several reasons. Mainly the special effects and I don't even know the word, the costumes, is it, of the trolls? It's very troll based, but we'll talk about that in a bit. James,
yeah.
So you sat down. You didn't remember much about Ernest.
No, not too much, other than I didn't particularly like the character very much when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit weird. Just didn't get it.
Yeah. Do you think that's because he was too dumb or too American, or
bit of both, probably?
Yeah, bit of both, yeah.
I just thought, from what I remembered of the Christmas one, was that I thought he got in the way of the story. That he just was sort of slowing the story down, and it just would have like minutes or whatever of just him being a bit silly.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like that very much, and I can't really tell you why, because there probably were other things that I saw around that time that were probably similar that I did really like.
Yeah.
So I don't know really, other than it probably was just his the character, I just didn't like it.
It sounds like you found him annoying.
I did. I think, but also sort of, I didn't understand why he behaved in the way he did, and that was the thing that got to me. Was like, why is he doing this? Like, that was.
Well, the sort of the slapstick side of him, and I mean, in this as well, they sort of brand him as an idiot. I'd describe him more as naive and gullible and childlike.
He's not stupid. He's not. They call him dumb, or the plot is that the ancestry of him is they're dumber each generation. But he's not dumb. He's just sort of just does things wrong at times, and does things perhaps a little bit without thinking.
Carefree.
Yeah, but he invents stuff. You know, dumb people don't invent things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's. And they
work as well.
Especially in the third one, you see his house and there's all these gadgets. He's almost like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, he is. He is a bit like that. Or what I thought because I've seen a few of them now since I watched this one, I thought he was a bit like Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah,
in that he was who I did like as a kid.
Yeah. And now that's a character. I mean, I really like the movie, but I find Pee Wee Herman really annoying.
This is it. I don't. I just found him I found very odd, but also, I don't know, a bit kind of scary, which I liked. I think because Ernest isn't in any way scary.
No.
And I think as a kid, I did, and I still do, like scary.
Yeah.
And I think Pee Wee Herman was a bit like,
yeah.
And I think there's something that intrigued me about the character, where Ernest isn't like that, but he does have similarities in that he sort of invents things and they're his own style, and there's no one else like him.
Yeah, in a different respect, he's like a man-child as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas Pee Wee Herman's like a younger child, in fact, in the sort of silly, giggly little laugh.
Yeah.
And whereas Ernest is more like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old who likes to ride a bike and likes to do. Obviously, the plot of Pee Wee Herman is riding a bike, but I mean, Pee Wee Herman I see as more of a 5-6-year-old, like proper young child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that the annoyingness of the character and the silliness. I think he'd be much more suited as a sidekick. You know, you could get maybe an action film and Ernest follows them along, but there's an actual lead. Do you know what I mean? And that might be, he might become like a Jar Jar Binks type.
Yeah,
but but that's how I kind of see how he could have been.
I would like to say though, because I'm making it sound very much from the offset that I don't like the Ernest character, because of how I felt as a kid. I actually do quite like him now. I've got a lot more appreciation, a lot more respect for Jim Varney as an actor and as a comedian, and a physical performer as an adult now. Watching him, and not just seeing this one, but like I say, I really wanted to get more of an understanding of his work. So I watched, I've seen multiple things he's done now, and he is great as that character and as a performer overall.
Yeah.
So
and he's much loved in the comedy community. I say in America he's a lot bigger than over here.
Yeah. It is very American.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Without like saying we are American, because there's none of that in it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was very done on. Obviously, I would have thought for to make sure internationally, you want to sell it, so you don't want to make it too overtly, but it does have that feel, very much that feel of the American family values.
Yeah, but there's not many like references to things. Do you know what I mean? So they're not referencing Pacific American things, not really referencing things to the time. So
this is interesting. You're absolutely right. Except if you were from the area and the time, you will see little advertisements for things that he advertised on television, like Purity Dairy Milk and stuff like that. Which if you were from that area and from that type of, then you'd notice them in the film.
Yeah, but they're not specific to say the plot.
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's not like we've said in podcasts before, things that are set in a time period don't age. I mean, these films have aged, but not. I mean, it's 1991, so 31 years old, depending on when you're listening to this. But I think a lot of things from that era have aged a lot more than this movie, especially kids' films. But it was the beginning of that kind of, not a golden age, but an age of family Disney type films where they started to do well again. One thing is often compared to is Hocus Pocus, which came out 2 years after this. Didn't do so well, but the fact that the sequels just come out and there's merchandise still of Hocus Pocus, that became almost a massive cult hit. You have to call it that because of how it bombed. But also, people forget Hocus Pocus was released in like July or something. It wasn't released at Halloween, which was a massive mistake at the time. But certainly the way this film starts with the going back, flashbacks to previous ancestors and stuff, it's very Hocus Pocus. Yeah. Or Hocus Pocus is very this.
Yeah, well, in a way, it's a classic sort of gothic story in that respect. That it starts off with the past, where there is a curse has been created because of what people have done to a creature, right? Yeah. So, there's a troll, and the village people have captured the troll.
The village bit, sorry.
Sorry?
I said the band, the village bit. That would have been hello.
Village people I forget what the town is called, or the village, but it's in Missouri. And it doesn't tell you when it was set either, it just says long ago. But you get the feeling it's, by the costumes anyway, it's probably about the time roughly around the Revolution of America, so probably the 18th century, so 17-something maybe. And so they capture the troll and they bury it and they put an oak tree on top of it so that its roots will keep it down and control it and it won't be able to get out. And the man that is in charge, who I think is like a pastor, some sort of religious type character, who is Ernest's ancestor, the trolls put a curse on him and his family. So his ancestors throughout time will just get stupider and stupider, apparently. And so that's the setup for what will happen in the future, which we come to present day, where Ernest is a garbage man in this movie.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And, he's doing his Ernest thing, being a bit silly, but not too silly, I'd say, overall in this one, which is why I think I prefer this to some of the others that I have seen, where he is very, very much more slapsticky and over the top. But this one he's a bit more sensible, and there's children in this one, so there's that element I think is important, because he has to sort of be a little bit more considerate, I think, when around them, that he can't be just going absolutely over the top and completely crazy like he does in sort of, the camp one, Ernest Goes to Camp, he's pretty crazy in that, but especially crazy in Ernest Goes to Jail. I mean, there's some stunts and stuff in that which are just like, this is insane.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, because that one there is no, in the what I call the four main ones, the four got the cinema releases. Maybe the fifth one as well, but the four what made money.
But they're the ones that Disney were involved with. These are the four that Disney had.
That's true. And because you've got the teenage girl in Christmas one, who's like his sort of psychic or whatever. Then he wants to be camp counsellor in Goes to Camp, so there's the kids in that.
Yeah, who are teenagers.
But young teenagers, aren't they? 13, 14. So I suppose it's teenagers in the other ones and then younger kids in there.
Yeah, and this one I think they're like 9, 10 sort of age.
And they've got which would have been quite big at the time, I think there's a bit of a Wonder Years vibe from these kids in this. You've got the boy and girl who kind of like each other, and the nerdy friend with the glasses. Yeah. And that's one of the faults in this film. I think it's very generic kids.
Absolutely. And like you were saying about Disney at the time, this is sort of the beginning of, and it also has a bit of a Nickelodeon feel as well.
True. Yeah.
The sort of, the standard sort of group of kids that you see in every single Disney movie that's come out. These sort of films that have a sort of made-for-TV feel to them, where it's just like, exactly what you're going to get. It's almost like cut and paste of these films where similar characters.
And does every kid go about on a bike? Do they ever walk anywhere? There's this thing from kids' films I noticed. Like, right, we're going to see Next Door Neighbour. That's jump on a bike and go over there.
Well, I suppose the idea is that they might go long distances with their mates and stuff. But,
it's almost like a cliche. It's
Well, it's adventure, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kids going on an adventure, and they can't drive yet, so they get on their bikes.
That's true. Yeah, it's a bit Monster Squad.
Yeah, Monster Squad did it. E.T. all that.
Yeah. But I mean, the kids in this, I think, are fine. They're sort of not none of the actors sort of stand out as being a Corey Feldman or anything, but they didn't annoy me.
No, then there's no one in it really, like especially with the kids, that is great as an actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was no one that was overly annoying and like, don't put him. Why is that person?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll get what's clearly like the producer's nephew or something who just can't act. But there was none of that. None of them have really gone on to anything. The girl in it, who I don't know the name of, we sort of put this episode together quite quickly. But she was a recurring character in Third Rock from the Sun,
That's right.
which has only been a few years later.
Yeah,
and I think she's a singer in America now.
Yeah, apparently so. I again never heard of her, but yes, I do remember Third Rock from the Sun. I looked it up. She does play the girlfriend, on and off girlfriend of Tommy.
Yeah.
In Third Rock from the Sun. So and I was like, wow, she does look quite different, and it's. The time's only like 5 or 6 years, but kids,
when you grow up,
exactly. So she's like 10 in this, and then about 15 in Third Rock from the Sun. So yeah.
And saying about the cast, there's a lot of small roles from people from the other Ernest movies, which I quite like. Always playing different characters.
Yeah.
But in a way, with that, it's like each Ernest film, he's got a goal of something he wants to do. I don't think he has in this, but he's always got a different job, and he's always got.
This is it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, generally he's got a job, but he wants to. He aspires to be something else.
Yeah.
To something greater or whatever. And this one, no, he's just doing his job. But his job is not part of the plot in this one, really. As far as like further along the story, the plot has already been settled and is something that is separate almost to what he's doing. He's very much included in it, but it's not to do with what he does.
Yeah, I mean, this
is to do with who he is.
This and the Christmas one feel very much like they've got this plot for a seasonal film, and they've sort of written into it.
Absolutely,
the plot was already there, and I think he's a garbage man for the sake of humour.
Yeah,
there's jokes. But it is the sort of job Ernest would be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, this one he feels right. Like he's doing what I think is right. This one and the Christmas one, which I think are the two better films. He's doing a job that completely suits him, that completely fits him.
He's a taxi driver.
He's a taxi driver in the Christmas film.
Yeah, but they're very reminiscent to me of. I've mentioned in the previous podcast that I kind of see him as a later American Norman Wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Norman Wisdom often played the same sort of character who'd have a different job. He'd always have the same first name of Norman, but they'd change the surnames in them so it was different.
Yeah.
But I mean, in things like this, it doesn't matter. And I think it's the way kids will look at it. Like, right, the camp film, the Christmas, so in the jail one, he does he work? He's a cleaner in the jail, isn't he?
He's a janitor in a bank, but he wants to be a bank clerk.
That's it, yeah.
And it just feels so wrong. It just doesn't feel right at all. But I think a bank clerk.
I see that as he's around these people and he admires them. So it's like in the Goes to Camp one.
Yes.
He wants to be a counsellor.
He's the maintenance man.
And he admires these people and he aspires to be something.
Yeah.
Which is saying to kids, follow your dreams in a way, I suppose.
I think so. I think it's very much, don't settle for something small. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it is, for me, I know this is my attitude or whatever coming through. I don't particularly like that. I don't like that story. I don't like that sort of storytelling where it's sort of subliminally saying to kids, it's not good to be small, aim higher.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
I think that I see it as a Disney thing of follow your dreams, you'll succeed. But a lot of people grow up actually feel they're entitled to things because they're so used to seeing in stories everyone succeed all the time. It's very rare that a film ends with someone not reaching their goal, but they find something they're happy. But I think more things should be like that.
I agree,
because that's life.
And I mean, in this one and in all the others, apart from the one where Ernest goes to camp, he doesn't sort of, he still is on the same sort of level. He's helping people. Yeah. That's what he does, and I like that about him, about the character, is that he's a guy who wants to just help people, not for any other reason other than he just wants people just to be happy.
Yeah,
he wants to just see them do all right. He's not like, oh, I want to help you to succeed, to be some special, incredible person. It's just, all right, this is happening to you. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can help you out, sort of thing. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, in Ernest Goes to Camp, there's these delinquent kids, and he's the only one in the film who likes them.
Yeah.
Like, literally the only person who's nice to them. And one of the criticisms for that film, which I didn't notice as a kid, but I do know, the kids aren't even that bad.
They're not at all. Not at all. And everything I'm not... It's the one that I actually really... I'm not a big fan of that film. That I just think the setup of it is just feels off to me. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right.
I get the feeling with that one. It's actually my favourite, but I watched it loads as a kid. But I think they had, it was the first movie, they had to make it sort of low key. So, right, let's set it in this campsite. So that which is probably already, it was already there. It was so that was a budget thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas since that, in the next 3 movies, they're all over the place. There's lots of sets. I mean, this film I think looks great. Yeah. It's got a $9.5 million budget. And to me, it looks a lot higher budget than that. There's some awesome sets and all the gadgety things he makes, and obviously the trolls, which are made by it's costumes, but the same people who made Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which would have been a few years before that, late 80s,
88, I think,
which didn't do well. This one I might actually do a podcast on at some point.
Yeah, it's good fun. That
it's a good film, remembered really well. And some of the trolls are actually the same costumes, but they've developed them. And
some because it's one troll to start with, but then he has sort of children sort of thing. Some of them do look like clowns.
Yeah,
if you look, in the background, some of the ones you don't see close up, there's like, it looks pretty much like a clown.
Yeah. What did you think of them in general?
I liked it. I like the look. They're kind of grotesque. But not enough to be, scary. But I still think if you were a little kid and saw them, you would be like, oh, ah!
Yeah, well, the director, is it John Cherry, isn't it?
Yeah, who's done all of Ernest.
All of them, co-creator creator, actually.
Of the character.
He says he regrets making it like this scary, and he blames it for not doing so well. Yeah. I'm not sure about that, because I don't think that people have gone into it knowing.
I personally do understand. I do think I probably would feel the same if I was wanting to make a kids movie that the film that was very solely made for children. I could understand it. There are a couple of scenes, especially where the little girl character is in bed and she turns around and the troll is right there in her face.
Yeah,
that is quite. I'd be like, that's scary.
And the scene where they first the nerdy kid gets, because they get turned to wood, don't they?
Yeah.
The scene with the nerdy kid early on.
Yeah.
That's quite scary.
Yeah.
Kids, I mean. But then I think
the build up to it. Yeah.
But what I mean is, I think unless there was like in reviews and people that spoke to other parents, I think parents would have taken their kids to see this film after seeing the other 3 anyway.
Absolutely.
So I think more.
Well, the way that works is that people would go initially, and then they would complain about it to people, and then those people wouldn't go.
Yeah,
and that's why the numbers probably wouldn't.
I don't think it would have that big of effect. I don't know.
Maybe not.
But I think it was the 4th film, they'd been churning them out.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't have been as successful anyway. But it's definitely remembered better than Goes to Jail and any after it.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen. This is the furthest I've seen. As the films go on, or the series go on.
I mean, I consider myself a fan, but it's proper downhill after this.
Yeah, this way.
And I think it's got 5.7, which I believe is the highest on IMDb for any of them.
Right.
Which isn't high enough.
But they're probably all around about the same, aren't they? They're probably like 5.5 sort of thing for the early ones.
The early ones are all about 5.5.
Yeah.
And then the later ones are all about 4.
Yeah.
Which, if it's a horror film, that's a great rating. If I see a 4-star horror film, I'm watching it. That's not even a joke. So we've sort of gone over the plot-ish, but it's not. Film isn't really bad.
So the plot is that overall we've touched on it. There's this troll. It exists at the time of the beginning of the film. Exists within a tree, so dormant in a tree, and its brought out because of Ernest making a silly mistake, which is basically, he's helping out some of these kids who are being bullied, and they've built this tree house in the tree that the troll is underneath, and he's been told how to stupidly, in a way, been told how the troll can be released by an old lady who lives in the town, who is played by Eartha Kitt brilliantly, by the way. I think she's the best person in it, who is she's kind of like seen as the town kook. She's a bit witchy. She's clearly an artist, makes some fantastic art that exists in her garden and stuff that there's originally Ernest had been told to go round and clean up, because it's thought of as trash, but it's really not. It's some really cool stuff. But she's really into knows the whole lore, the whole curse and everything, and the history of the town. And she's got all these books and stuff, and she's told Ernest how the troll can be released, and he tells the kids, and is doing all the things at the same time that he shouldn't be doing that will release the troll, and so the troll gets released.
That's him trying to cheer the kids up. The story, and that's
it works. It does work,
but not to get too serious about these, but a lot of films like this, an adult around kids as much as that would come across as creepy.
Yeah, it's not. It is absolutely. You would think that completely.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not at all. And I'm watching these films. I don't see it. It looks like that. You just see him as this generally likable.
I think a big point which is established at the beginning that this is a small town where everyone knows each other, and they all just know him. Yeah. They all know him. They've all grown up with him in the town. And so it's not like he's some stranger just hanging around with kids. Not at all. So that's important.
And there's a nice little bit in it where one of the kids is scared, and even though Ernest is seen as this idiot and slapsticky, I don't want to say moron, but they need help, and it's Ernest's name. He's not there, but they call the name for Ernest. Yeah. So he is like a big brother to them, so to speak, and he looks out for them. And that's why I like the character, because it's something like Mr. Bean, where the character is just selfish. It's all about comedy, and with this there is the heart, but it's not. I don't think it's overplayed in any of the films, more so in some than others. But the films where there's that little bit of heart in it work so much better than the ones where there aren't. Like Goes to Jail, there isn't much of that. They tried to swap it for romance, and I don't think that works.
It doesn't work. It doesn't. No. Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's a fine line, this kind of storytelling, I think, because it can completely go over into schmaltz, which it does a little bit, where you get a little bit of, oh, come on, it's a bit sickly, it's a bit, the whole, like I say, family values. I mean, the way that the troll is defeated is, it could have been really, really just sickeningly, why is it that? But he makes it fun. He makes it funny. And so it doesn't, because the way that the troll is apparently destroyed is through unconditional love, which is a bit silly, because it's not what destroys him. What destroys him is Ernest, spoiler, destroying the whole film for you. Ernest basically gives him a hug and dances with him, and then gives him a kiss.
Go on, Ernest.
And that makes the troll vanish. And that's fun, that's nice, but it could have the whole unconditional love, the element to it, which I keep saying.
Could I say, if I hug, dance, or kiss people, it tends to make them vanish as well?
Very good.
Just get that.
Very good. There's the whole kind of, they keep mentioning is unconditional love. That's what destroys the troll. It's not unconditional love. It's just showing it a bit of affection. It's not the same thing.
But I mean, that comes in the end. But it's nothing like a lot of the sentimental.
No way. And that's why I very much tolerated the film and enjoyed it for what it was, because it didn't go overboard with those kind of things. And
a lot of young kids, especially, you don't want to sound sexist, but when I was younger, especially males, would have hated all the soppy stuff. Yeah. So I think that's in it to balance it out a bit, because other than that, it's kind of a bit. He's kind of dark for a kids' film. Yeah.
Like I say, if I was the director of it, I wouldn't have been surprised that some people would have been like, "Oh no, that's little kids. It's not good for little kids."
Yeah.
And I would have been disappointed. I would have been upset to hear that, obviously, because that clearly is what was intended for the film to be for children.
Yeah, but also a lot of kids love that.
Of course, I would have loved it if I'd seen this when I was that age. I would have loved it.
Yeah, so I know someone who she's my age, 3 months younger, who it scared the hell out of as a kid, and the trolls still creep her out.
Yeah,
but then it's a lot of people. I don't get it, but they're scared of clowns.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
And but you can't not make a film. They don't nowadays, but you could. Kids' films with clowns in used to be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now you don't get clowns are just scary to people now. I don't get it.
Yeah, I've never understood why people were scared of clowns.
It kind of crosses. Don't hate me for this, but a lot of people who are scared of clowns and a lot of people who love retention. Sort of the thing crosses. I think a lot of people make out. Not some people are scared of clowns, obviously. But I think it's a thing now to say you're scared of clowns.
Probably. I mean, I guess so. Look, this is why it's always baffled me, and I have tried to talk to people about it who are afraid of clowns. They can't really. It's just it's one of them phobia things. It's a rational fear, but. Yeah, obviously, if someone is dressed up like a clown and they've got a knife and they're coming at you, that's scary. Yeah. But just a clown, not being scared, not having any sort of ill intention towards you, that's not scary. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is why the character from a massive fast food chain, don't advertise, used to have a clown but now doesn't. I think that's a lot of that's to do with it.
I also think hanging around with children. I think that was a big element too. Yeah, that's why I like mascots in that respect. Anyway, when it's sort of something that's certainly designed. Not saying that this particular place is designed just for children, but selling it to children is a huge.
Yeah, I suppose it's different than if the character's a big cuddly bear.
Yeah. But even so, they get rid of all of them now. You don't really have that sort of thing anymore, do you?
And also, leaving your kid with a bear would be a lot more dangerous than leaving it with a clown.
Well, if it was a real bear, or anything, I suppose, unless it was a tiny little bear, probably be all right.
Still might bite you a bit, scratcher.
Maybe.
So I think, and also,
no, you should not leave tiny little children with any animal. By the way, unsupervised.
This is another thing we've been brought up to believe that the only bad thing bears do is steal picnic baskets, when in fact they'll rip your fucking head off.
Yeah.
So. Be careful.
Indeed. Or fill your face full of marmalade or honey.
Yeah. Paddington's. What Paddington turns. That'd be.
Scary.
Yeah.
Don't.
That's the third one of the trilogy.
He's had enough.
Yeah. And to be honest, it wouldn't change the storyline any more than the latest Halloween does for the trilogy. Right. But it is good, the new Halloween. Do watch it.
We're kind of going off point.
Yeah, it was Halloween theme.
Halloween theme.
Yeah. Ignore everybody else apart from me. New Halloween's good.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like, from what you're saying, I think you did pretty much say it, that you think you'd have loved this as a kid.
Oh, absolutely. Ernest might have annoyed me again still, but the whole thing with the trolls and all that stuff, I would have loved that. Would have absolutely loved it.
But I don't know if he'd have annoyed you so much in this, because this is more of a zany film than the Christmas one.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Because the Christmas one, to me, reminds me, it is like a feel-good, almost Hallmark Christmas film.
It is. It's like a.
And then there's this mad bloke in the middle of it.
Absolutely. That is the thing, and I think that's what kind of made me feel a little uneasy about it as a kid. It's like, I don't get it. I just did not get it.
Yeah.
Where this one is certainly more suited to, the craziness, because it's meant to be sort of. I mean, obviously both of them are magic, because Christmas is the magic of Christmas and Santa and all that, and this one is the magic of evil, curses and trolls and things like that. Yeah. So, which I definitely would have preferred a lot more as a kid anyway, just in general. Yeah. So, and Christmas movies have never really been my thing too much anyway. Though, like I say, I appreciate it a hell of a lot more now. Yeah. That film than I did as a kid.
I think for me, apart from Scrooged, it's probably the Christmas film I've watched the most over the years. Right. Just because it was like my thing. It was like not many other people would watch it every year, and we used to do these Christmas get-togethers, and everyone would pick It's a Wonderful Life, or later on Elf was one. Some funny man would say Die Hard. I'd bring Ernest Goes to Camp, and most people I've shown it to not necessarily loved it, but appreciated it. I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's hard. It is. I think it's quite hard to really love Ernest in a sort of a in a grown-up way as an adult. I think you can go, you can appreciate Jim Varney for what he's doing and stuff, but I think to really love it is, I think, difficult.
Yeah, I think
because I don't.
Yeah, but I think if you'd have grown up.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Oh, you mean coming into it?
Yeah, coming in as an adult,
yeah.
watching it for the first time. I just don't think it's really, maybe some people do. But I think he's brilliant. I think it's amazing, whatever. But I just,
I think that's the same with a lot of things. I mean,
absolutely.
The Norman Wisdom one we done. I don't think nowadays an adult could come into that and really get that into it unless they really appreciated old comedy.
Yeah, I think I liked it a hell of a lot more than I like. Yeah, his style a lot more than the Ernest thing. But maybe that is a cultural thing.
Yeah, possibly, and you'd have probably recognised a lot more of the actors, and they're very British films in the way that these are very American.
I like the tempo of them. Like there's much more sort of my wavelength kind of thing. These are very American, like very 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 American.
I mean that's kind of the point of this podcast is to a film someone's grown up with and someone else hasn't. And coming into it, and I think this has been a good example of we've realised that I think I'd be exactly the same as you if I hadn't heard the character. I don't think I'd come into it now appreciating it. But there's if you're a fan of comedy or performing in general, I don't think anyone can take anything away from Jim Varney.
Not at all. No, he's brilliant.
And I think it's a shame that he's mainly remembered for Ernest in a way. But also, he was that character. Even though he didn't create it, you can't picture anybody else being it.
Yeah, sure.
So at least he's remembered, and remembered fondly.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have got that good role, if he wasn't in the Ernest films, he wouldn't have gone on to be, say, Jed in the Beverly Hillbillies movie. Mm-hmm. He probably wouldn't have been... He's the dog in Toy Story, isn't he?
Yeah, Slinky.
I don't think he'd have done any of that. So probably even though he didn't... he had a bit of a... Christopher Reeve Superman syndrome to a certain respect.
Definitely.
He's still. Sorry, my phone is ringing, even though it's on silent. You probably hear it. I think he's still done quite well. And it's such a shame that he died so young.
Yes, he was only 50. I think, when he died. I mean, I agree completely with all of that. I'm sure. Himself would have, of course, he would have been very thankful for the character to have a career. But I also believe that I like to think that he did right in the film and in other movies. He plays other characters as well. He gets to showcase a little bit, sort of more of his comedic stylings and stuff and characters, and that's great. It's wonderful because they are generally very good. And it's sad, in a way, to think that they aren't as much, that you could have had more movies with other characters playing more of a central role. But you at least got to see that. So you get to witness like his versatility as a comedic actor. And that helps me a hell of a lot to enjoy these movies a bit more. Yeah. Then I certainly wouldn't have enjoyed them as much as I do without those.
Yeah, that's possibly one of the reasons you dislike the first one, Goes to Camp, more than because there's none of that.
Yeah, there is none of that.
But also, I think in the later films, it's not so more of it, but it doesn't work in the films as much. In the later ones, it's like they're just putting these little characters in for the sake of it. Whereas in this, I think it works, especially towards the end of this movie, when it all goes a bit crazy and he's dying from character to character. I can imagine a 7-year-old wetting their pants laughing at that.
Yeah, probably,
I did when I was 10 when I saw this.
So, then you know from experience. Then, no, it's great, and it's really lovely as well. Was the point I think I was trying to get at with the Ernest movies, is that they're recurring characters in other films, set in other places, in other situations. And it's like it's their own world, like himself and the creators, John Cherry and other people, who all work together as a family on these movies. I think there's something really lovely about that you don't see so much anymore. You know, like a group of people, like a troupe, right?
Yeah.
In the old days of vaudevillian days, and people in theatre who work together, who have their own repertory, their own group that work together and know what they're doing and love doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, that element to it again, which I wouldn't have understood as a kid and didn't know anything about, as an adult, knowing that and having worked a little bit within these kind of things like theatre and stuff, especially, like that I love. That's just completely like makes me feel like warms my heart, to think of a person like Jim Varney, who's known for just playing a character. And I'm sure a lot of people some people would just think, oh, he's nothing, like, look at this guy, he just plays this one Ernest character, that's it. And if you actually look at his work, you can see, it all truly there. And yeah, that's great. Just seeing other faces again in multiple films, people that are clearly like, they all know each other and they get along and they work together. It's wonderful. It's lovely.
Yeah. And they say, I certainly feel they enjoyed these films because, as you mentioned earlier, this was the last one, which was kind of Disney. Mm-hmm. But they still carried on doing them. And I don't think they done them as this pays the bills. I think they done them because they enjoyed working together.
Absolutely.
And they had a fan base.
Yeah.
And kids loved Ernest. It was that it's just easy to watch for them. And also, even though there's the morals in it, it's not preachy, or certainly to the point of there's enough other stuff going on that kids wouldn't notice so much. Yeah. It's not, so many films, especially that I mentioned, like the Hallmark, that sort of, or made for TV. It's, goody is how I'd describe it.
Yeah, sure.
And Ernest isn't. Later on in the straight to video ones, there's not even the little bit that's in this.
Right.
And that's where it starts to go wrong, I think. But I think they changed because the fans were getting a little bit older.
Maybe.
But they got them out quick. I mean, it was I think the first one was 87, then 89, then 90, this one's 91. I think Rides Again afterwards might be 92, 93. Right. So they were on average one every year and a half or something. Mm-hmm. And I think they rushed the last few because it's really sad that they knew he was dying and he wanted to do more. Mm-hmm. And they were halfway through. I think it was Ernest the Pirate when he died.
Right. So that one never was finished then.
No, never. And he was constantly doing other things. He's like the villain in one of the Three Ninja movies. And there's a film I've never seen called Snowboard Academy, which
it's got some people. It is Corey Haim, I think, is in that one.
And he's as an actor. He was as good as a villain. Which I don't think I'll ever do a podcast on Ernest Goes to Jail. I think we will cover what we need to in these other ones. But what the standout in that is him as the villain. Yeah,
he plays the bad guy. As well as obviously Ernest, but
and we haven't mentioned, to get away from Giovanni a bit, the dog Rimshot,
right? Yeah,
who adds a lot of comedy and likability to the film. I think
that's very true. I think in the two films so you got Ernest Goes to Jail, where we first meet Rimshot, and then in this one, I think better in this one in Scared Stupid. I think overall. I think the dog plays a better role. I think
maybe he's developed as an actor.
Maybe, yeah. I think they just gave the scenes were just better suited maybe in this one.
I think maybe as well that they wanted to bring the dog back and they thought about it more opposed to just.
I think so. And this one's more, kids are in this movie, and I think it just works a bit better with a dog with there being a dog.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from the dog's performance in Goes to Jail, but just think this one, higher quality performance.
He's good in both, though.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such a shame that he was contracted to Disney, and when the movies moved away from that, he unfortunately didn't. He wasn't loyal to the troop of Ernest. Stuck with his Disney.
I don't know. Well, there's always one, isn't there, that sells out.
Yeah. But I did look at. I had a quick look to see what else he was in, and I couldn't find it. I only looked on Letterboxd.
See, that's where that'll get you. That's where it gets you. Yeah, ruined his career.
Yeah. Probably look at he's probably in some Oscar winning.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, people do love Jack Russells, don't they? I mean, I don't particularly, but oh, sorry.
No, but it's nice, and that adds a bit more fun to it. I wish that the dog was in more of the film.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it would have really worked in Goes to Camp, but there's a tortoise.
There was a funny tortoise.
Yeah.
Yes, I think yes, because the dog isn't just a dog; it is the sidekick. It is really Ernest's true family.
It's the grommet to the Wallace.
Yeah, and so very important
with the inventions, and you know,
and so very important. Character within this film,
it
definitely helps.
Yeah,
definitely helps.
So I mean, you're coming away with quite a few positives, really. I mean,
I could talk about the negatives if you like, because there are loads.
Yeah, you got
it. Okay, well, just from an acting standpoint, apart from Varney doing Ernest and some of his other characters, pretty much everyone in it is not good. The plot overall is a bit ploddy and a bit dull, and it probably could have been, even though it's only 90 minutes, about 10 minutes shorter.
It's 91 minutes.
91 minutes. It could have been a little bit shorter. Get rid of some of that family values elements to it. But yeah, I mean, overall.
But these are all things that really wouldn't matter to kids.
This is what I mean. I could talk about like negativities in the sense of, how I feel about it as an adult watching this film, which is the only way I can really talk about it, because the only way I saw it. As if you were just looking at it from, I could put my kid's head on. Yeah. Yeah. Apart from me probably having a little bit of problem with understanding why Ernest is Ernest. Yeah. I'm sure I would have really loved it. Like I said, like all the scary bits, I really would have liked, and I like now, and I liked Eartha Kitt. I thought Eartha Kitt in it. Sorry, when I was talking about the acting, that was the only person I thought was actually, really good. I mean, this is what's a bit sad, I think, about it. A bit of a shame about it, because which doesn't exist as much anyway than in the which is why I think the Christmas one is a better film, is that the acting standard is quite low, where it's not so low in the Christmas film.
Interestingly, the Christmas one is, after the hit of the first one, the longest gap in between. I think there's 2 years, so it's almost like they have put more thought, money, time, had time to cast it properly. Yeah. Whereas in the later ones, it's like, it's good that they've got all their mates together. Yeah. But they just sort of throw them in there.
Yeah. But it's also other people in it. It's not just the typical, the crew, like the core crew. There's just other actors in
like the mum and stuff like that.
But the mum is one of the other people who's in, at least the mum of depending on which mum you're talking about, because there's the mother of the girl is really bad. Like, I was just like, God, you are really awful. Yeah. but the mother of I think he's Kenny's his name. Yeah. His dad is the chef. He's really bad. But his mum, who doesn't really get much of a role, sadly, she was in other films, Ernest films, and she's in one of the Dr. Otto film, which isn't really an Ernest film, but it's a Jim Varney vehicle film to show his versatility, all the different characters.
So the mum was the teacher?
Oh, she's in it as well. Okay. She's also in all of them. She played a much bigger role in an earlier film of his. But yeah, again, them are underused. Yeah. Not showing their comedic chops, really, because they're really funny. They were really funny in earlier and in some earlier stuff. And I think in this one, like, it's almost like no one else is really allowed almost to be funny, apart from Tom and Bobby, of course, who are which we haven't talked about.
It's like the Lauren Hardy thing. Yeah. But there's a different Tom.
Yeah, different Tom.
And Bobby is more the silent. I mean,
hardly speaks.
I mean, I think they're fine, but they're comedy relief in a comedy. Yeah. They seem like they're from another film for me.
Yeah, I don't like their characters in this one. They're sort of playing entrepreneur types.
Yeah.
Like I think they've got a store and they rip off Ernest with all this troll gear, which is kind of funny, but not that much. But they're entrepreneur in the sense that they're always trying to find a way to make money.
Yeah.
Because they sort of they're not interested in killing the trolls or helping people. They're interested in getting a picture, which again I think is again meant to be a comedy, but it just doesn't really work. And in the context,
they're almost a bit too nasty for the film.
Yeah. And they're not the bad guys. The bad guy, apart from the trolls, is the mayor.
Yeah.
And his two sons, who are the bullies. But they're not really that bad because it's not that kind of movie.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think the bullies in it suit the style of the film really well because even though they are the bullies, they get shown up really quick.
Yeah.
So.
I'll just say one thing to say about the mayor and that sort of. It's one of the mums. I think it is the mum of the girl I thought was bad.
Yeah, she's awful.
Yeah. But it's a bit of a cliche in these kids' films where the main kid is the son or daughter of the police
of authority.
Yeah, that's always the way. And we watched the Monster Squad not long ago. It's the same in that. And the kid really reminds me of the kid from Monster Squad as well.
Yeah. I think that was certainly their influence mostly as far as what they were taking. Like, right, we want to be a little bit like that film.
Yeah. But then that was another film that didn't do well, but everyone loves. And but yeah, I mean, I think it's one that I watched it last year because I was going to do this podcast, and I thought it was alright. And I hadn't seen it for quite a while, but I really enjoyed it this time. I don't know if I was just in the right headset for it.
I've seen it twice now in a week, and the second time I saw it, I preferred it.
Yeah, I just love looking at the special effects. The whole feel is that
there is no CGI in it, which I think is important to mention. There is stuff that looks a little bit like CGI, but I had a close look at it, and that's clearly drawn animation, which is superimposed on, which is great because that's old school stuff. Nice to see.
I think it stands up well. And if it had been made 10 years later with CGI, it would look terrible now.
Those bits, I think would look a bit tacky.
I'm going to ask you now for a rating out of 5.
I have to be honest, and the way I feel as an adult about the film, I have to give it a 2 as a film overall. Right. That is. If I was younger, I would obviously sort of like 3, 4s kind of thing. But as a movie of what it does, and I appreciate it. Like I appreciate Varney, and I appreciate the group, the John Cherry Group, and it's Amshell Productions, I think, is the name of the company that John Cherry had, which is where all these movies were made. All of them, obviously, were made, before Disney and post Disney. I love all of that. Like, if going into just all that element of it, like the group itself and their legacy, that's brilliant stuff. But as a movie, just a standalone movie, I don't particularly think it's amazing or great. And I enjoyed it for what it was, but I've seen so much better.
But the way to look at it, I suppose, is almost like look at it as a showcase, not a film.
Yes. Elements. They're like similar to the Norman Wisdom film that we did, which I preferred, but still similar in the sense that there are set pieces, like little bits within the film that are like, they're great. They're wonderful. It's like lovely little moments, but overall, it's like it's a bit lacking.
And you can almost tell that he's come from adverts because it's short little bits, then move on. And it's so weird because I think what helps it, if you look at it for what it is for a kid, is there's not a complex plot.
Not at all.
And that's kind of how it would have worked. But if you was to put Ernest in a film with a good plot, you'd have to change that character because it wouldn't flow. And he'd go off on one and be annoying. Whereas in this, it kind of works, I think.
I like. Just wanting to mention, I like there's a teacher joke in it about him when he's a kid.
Oh, that bit's good.
It's brilliant.
The flashbacks.
Yeah, the fact that this is what I talk about. These little elements that have nothing to do.
He
with
doesn't
the
know
plot.
when to quit.
Yeah, he doesn't know when to quit. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that was good. Just look at that. I had written down the actual quote. I realised we've done this whole podcast
Yeah, without looking at
any notes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I've missed anything out.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
We've mentioned like the treehouse, special effects, the plot, nerdy death, the two brothers we mentioned at the end, mother's care, which was the milk.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the thing that kills the troll at the end is unconditional love, but just defeating all the smaller trolls and stuff. Milk does them. That's it. So that was cool. I quite like that. Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned that a group of kids literally rob a shop. They go and just help themselves, and they do rubbish.
Yeah, that's classic 80s, nonsense, because they're on bikes as well.
Yeah.
They're going through the shop
they should
on
stick
bikes.
an IOU as they live. That's what they should do.
Yeah. Like what was it? What was that other film that we saw? Where they just want to get their money back. It just reminded me of that Billie Jean or something. Something like that.
Yeah, they should have done that. That's what I was thinking to it. And there's the line from the kid. Great, I have to defend the fort with a multiple personality.
Yeah, well, that's what I was. Just to be serious for a moment here. The character of Ernest could be thought to have some psychological problems, and one of them might be sort of split personality disorder, which I don't think is the correct term now. I think there's more of a a smarter word for it than that. Yeah. But yes, he's playing all these other characters as Ernest. The boy sees it and knows it, so the boy is in on the fact that clearly there's something a little not quite right, perhaps, with my friend Ernest. But it's fine. It's fine, obviously, because it's a fun film.
That line is a little almost a step out of the film and look at the adult. Which I think makes it funny. Yeah. But you've got to look at Ernest as a cartoon.
Yes, He's not real. It's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I think literally gone over Eartha Kitt. I think Eartha Kitt is really good.
Yeah, it's fun.
It really reminds me of the Catwoman out of The Simpsons. The crazy
throwing cats.
Yeah. Which is also quite interesting. She played Catwoman in the 60s.
I think that's part of your mind's going there.
She was the original, as in the third Catwoman in the series. Yeah. Which is, I almost done another Simpsons reference there. There's only one Catwoman. Julie Newmar, Merriweather, and Eartha Kitt. There we go.
Pure West.
Yeah. So I kind of. You gave it the sort of score I thought you would. Yeah, but I also love the fact that you went and watched more of them.
I had to,
and you've seen
for Jim Varney. Absolutely, yeah.
Do you remember the Beverly Hillbillies movie he was in?
I do remember it, and I never saw it.
Okay,
just the look of it didn't appeal.
He's great in it. If you can sort of watch it and just ignore Rob Schneider, I think you'd really enjoy it.
Well, that might be difficult to ignore.
Leah Thompson's in it. I quite like it. And I forget the actress's name. She died recently. Who was? She played the granny, but she was in Young Frankenstein as the older, scary woman. And every time they said her name, you'd hear the horses.
Yeah, I know who you mean. I've forgotten her name.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah.
She was in the last picture show, wasn't she?
Yes.
She was in that. Yeah, a really good actress. And Beverly Hillbillies for a Saturday afternoon, cup of tea, put your feet up, I'd recommend that.
Yeah.
It's probably more, if you're listening to this and you've not seen Ernest films and you're interested in Jim Varney, that's probably the one to watch as an adult. It's still a family film, but you can go into that, and it's less childish.
Yeah, I can understand.
It's still quite childish, but it's less.
Okay.
And it's the director of Wayne's World as well.
Yeah, was Penny? No, not Penelope. Yeah. I forget that.
Yeah.
Well, who did those documentaries?
Yeah. One day I'll get the sort of equipment to do these podcasts without holding the dictaphone, so I can look up things on the internet and do like.
Or we could be really professional and have everything already there.
But I still need the other hand to open the boot.
Well, I'm really talking about myself because I've got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you made notes, but you haven't. No, till the end.
Yeah, I have. There it's in my bag.
Yeah. So there's Thanks for joining.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was good. I enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed going through them. As something to watch that I don't generally watch.
Yeah, and they are easy watches as well.
Yeah.
Some of them might drag a bit.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of times I was almost falling asleep.
Yeah.
Because they do drag just slightly.
I think maybe he'd have been suited to a TV series instead of films.
Maybe.
But I think for what it is, it kind of works.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. If you're a little kid, if you've got little kids, show them Ernest films.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See what they think. Yeah.
Just what I think. Have you got any other Halloween recommendations? Family films, though. Because this is kind of, even though I have done an F-bomb, this is kind of.
You did, didn't you?
I did.
It was you this time, not me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Worst Witch would have to be.
I've lost my copy of it. I wanted the Tim Curry.
Yeah, Tim Curry. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Is that
Bulk, yeah.
From The Craft and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a really good. That's a TV movie.
It is a TV movie from the mid-80s, I think 86.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Tim Curry's in it, sings a great campy song. Brilliant.
Yeah.
There's a few other songs in it as well, which are great. It's just good fun. If you like Harry Potter, it's better.
Oh, Harry Potter clearly ripped
it off, yeah. So, there you go.
Yeah. So, and Halloween recommendation for the adults listening as well. Anything a bit more obscure you can think of?
Well, I mean, our horror movies are abundant, aren't they?
Yeah, but none with the sort of Halloween theme or set at Halloween, or
are there other? There must be. But I'm trying to think like sets.
Trick or Treat,
Towers of
like Halloween. This is a fairly recent one.
Yeah.
I think one of the House movies is set at Halloween.
Probably. I can't.
A lot more are than you'd think.
That's the thing. I think I just don't.
Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead. That's actually not bad.
Yeah.
The special effects in that are really good. The story is very limited, but the character itself, like the way it looks, brilliant.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in practical effects, then and you haven't seen that one, see that one.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And come to King Street Cinema to see The Thing on Halloween.
Yeah, it's if I hopefully I'll get this episode
Halloween
out.
night.
I'll get this episode out before Halloween, because you've got that on the Friday is the Lost Boys, which we've done a podcast mainly on the King Street Cinema podcast.
Yeah,
and Rocky Horror Picture Show. You mentioned Tim Curry on Saturday.
So Rocky Horror on Saturday. So get yourselves all dressed up for that one.
Yeah,
and Hatching, which is a new horror movie or fantasy horror film from Finland. So, if you're interested in seeing some foreign horror, come to that.
Come and watch it, yeah. Enjoy your Halloween, if you celebrate it. If you don't celebrate, just watch horror films anyway. That's what I do. And
absolutely.
Be back for another episode fairly soon. This episode does feel a bit rushed, but we're both very busy at the minute, and I just wanted to get a Halloween one out. I tried to do this last year. Hopefully there'll be a Christmas one in a few months of Ernest. You mentioned you've seen the Christmas one. I've got...
Yeah, I've seen it again.
What my plan is to get the Pukaji players who don't go to camp to watch it, and maybe we could all do a little podcast on it and chat about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because being the massive Ernest fan you now are, you might want to do.
I'm a Jim Varney fan.
Yeah. But the thing is, I generally worry if anyone watched any of his work really and come away not liking him. You don't have to like the films because they're not masterpieces, but what a legend. So
absolutely, yeah. Should have a lot more people talking about him, I think. Should be.
Thank you for joining me, and hopefully we'll do it again real soon.
Okay, bye.